Well, today's November 2nd, 2022, and today we're talking about the Sony ZV-1F. It just was released, I guess, a week or so ago, but it's their entry-level camera for vlogging type of style of video. It's a little ploy off of the RX series and the ZV-1 series. Still trying to hang on to that small camera market, and they're trying to entice vloggers, younger folks, with this camera. So it's a complicated camera to talk about because it's kind of like hits a lot of different topics that you either hate it, you think it's okay, or you love it. There's not too many people who are going to be like, I love it, because they're just trying to hit a generation that I think may not be targeted. And I'd be very interested in how Sony does their market research and deciding what cameras they come up with. It just seems a little bit off to me. But let's get into it. We got pros, we got cons. We do actually have pros, right? There are some good things with this camera, not all negative. So we'll get into that. Let's get started. Again, my name is Scott. Welcome back to the channel. Please take a second and turn that red subscribe into gray and make me happy. Get close to 3,000 subscribers soon. So I'm getting excited for that. It's been a long time, but we're hacking away at it. Let's talk about who this camera is for. They made it for vloggers, for entry-level, younger generation to get off of their phones and onto a camera. I don't know. I have daughters, almost one's 16, one's I guess 13. I don't see them ever using this. They use their phones for everything. If you have daughters or if you have boys, whatever, this generation, phone is everything. It's like a lifeline. I don't see them moving away from the phone to this to do their stuff, to do their little Instagram stuff, whatever they do. Probably because it's still a learning process for them to get over what's a camera and what is in their phone. Funny story to me was I was trying to describe that I was using a wide angle lens for a shot, and they're like, what's a wide angle lens? I'm like, you can see more. Oh, a 0.5. I'm like, what's a 0.5? It's a 0.5. I'm like, oh, it's the iPhone 0.5 on the lens, the wide angle lens. So they describe 0.5 as a wide angle lenses these days. So that shows you the difference between my generation and their generation, how they look at cameras and stuff like that. So let me jump into why I think this is going to be a little bit of miss for Sony when it comes to this generation. What they've added, which I do like, as one of the pros, I didn't put it up there, is their touchscreen. So they added more buttons on the touchscreen itself to jump into different things like zoom. You can start the camera. You can turn stave on and off. You can pick a LUT on here to change the style. It's a different, something that is a pro for me. Then you have product showcase on here, your drive, and then your EV. So those are quick, easy changes on the fly you can do. You can zoom into a photo and look at it. It's all good stuff for us because we're not used to that with the RX 100 series to do all that. They did come up with a new app for this. So it's called Imaging Edge Plus. And I'll run through that app here real quick of what it looks like. But basically they try to make it faster transfer speeds when it comes to getting your footage off of here onto your phone to get it quickly done, which is important if you want to grab that generation, because you're not going to want to wait around a long time to get whatever's on here on their phone, because not of them they're not going to use this, take the SD card out, put it in their computer like we do, put it up in Final Cut Pro, whatever, the DaVinci Revolve, whatever you used for editing software, and then make your video that way. They want everything done on the phone. So they need this footage to come right to their phone and then use it. And if that process is not super smooth, they're like, what's the point? Just use the phone. It's already right there anyway. So transferring speeds, right? Let's talk about that. It does connect faster. I agree with that. So it finds your phone pretty quickly, connects to it. You can use it as a remote device, which is nice to remotely work your camera. But transferring speed is still slow. You get the choice with photos. You can do like a 1 megabyte photo, or you can do the original size. So if you're doing a thumbnail, you can easily pop over a image real quick, which is good. It's low, so you can put it in YouTube or something like that for a thumbnail. And that does come over pretty quickly. The original size does take a little bit longer. I say for a 16 megabyte or 20 megabyte photo, it takes about 10 to 15 seconds at least to come over. So if you have a bunch of pictures, that will add up in time. A video, I'm seeing about, let's say it's a 30-second video. It's gonna take more than double to get that transferred over. So you're looking at a minute and a half for a 30-second video to come across, roughly, from what I'm seeing. So if they do several cuts of that video, 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds, and they want to bring them all over, it'll take a couple of minutes to get that done. And I think this generation is too impatient for that. And they'll be like, what's the point of continuing to wait for this stuff to come over when I can just use my phone? So that's where I think the biggest miss is the process from this to a phone is not super smooth because you just don't have that Wi-Fi technology fast enough to pick it up to go from this to the phone. So that's where I think is a big miss when it comes to trying to get that younger generation into this device. So let's talk about us folks, or maybe you, that already have a big camera and you're looking for something else. So I have the A7 IV over there. I don't take it everywhere, right? You take it to planned events where I know I'm going to take photos. That's for me. So when I go to soccer games, dance stuff, I purposely go out to take photos or video, and I want to bring the best I have. That thing's coming every time. What this is, or something like this, is basically throw it into your bag, always there, just in case you need it, you want to film something. All right. Let's get into the pros and cons before I forget and get off track with this video, because I can talk forever about this camera, and that will be an injustice to you watching this. All right, let's go with the pros first. All right, vlog only. So if you're gonna just vlog only, if you're just gonna do that headshot, say what you wanna say to the camera, put it on your big video, this works fine. You have a 2.0 aperture, it blurs out the background. It's good facial quality. You can also have that skin smoothing effect. I wouldn't go any higher than low. Medium gets kind of fakey. High is ridiculous. But it does kind of smooth out the face a little bit, gets away some of the blemishes. So you do get a nice vlog video out of this. I agree with that. If you move around too much, that's where we get into issues. But stationary vlog, good to go. All right, product showcase. So if you're all like me and you're looking for something to put on the side like this or overhead to get a product showcase that's inexpensive, this is not a bad option either. It's very light, so it can go on a lot of different types of tripods or rigs you may have that don't hold too much weight. You can add this and then throw something under here, show what you wanted, the product you want to show, and then go back to the big camera. That's kind of what I need it for, really, if I decide to keep it. Or I may decide to look at something else a little bit better for those times I want to take it off. Anyway, we won't go there. All right, the 4K 2.0 aperture, right? I do want to put this as a pro. The 4K out of this thing in the 2.0 aperture compared to the RX0. So I compared some of this with this guy, since it has the same sensor on board. The f4 aperture on here is where it loses out. So this wins over this because of that 2.0 aperture. It gives a lot better blurred background, a lot better looking face, I think this one does, over the RX0. Over the GoPro is the GoPro. You're gonna get that GoPro look. So it does beat the GoPro. That's a good thing, right? If it doesn't beat the GoPro, then what the heck are we doing here? All right, the size. All right, so the size is the RX0 size. The weight is really kind of like very nice. You'll completely forget that's in your bag with this plastic. So the weight and the size are a plus. LUTs in the camera. There are some LUTs in the camera that I will show you. PT is the second one down, PT. NT, natural time. not the right combination. November Tango. VV. Vibrant. Who knows what that means? ND filters on. VV2. Vibrant. Whoa, I'll look really brightness. FL. You just won a lot. IN. I'm a little more brighter on here, so I probably should adjust the ND filter. IN. This is SH. I don't know what that is. I don't need to tell you what this is. So I was happy with some of the LUTs that are on here to play with right out of the box. So that's one of the features they did add that's kind of new. I haven't seen that before in Sony. They've always had their picture profiles, what it does have in here. And it did have its creative mode. And this is something a little bit different than that. Another pro is the thread in here, which is a 40.5 millimeter thread. So I had a variable ND filter that was 37 millimeters. So I bought a step up ring from Amazon from 37 to 40.5 and then added this to my setup here. What's cool about this variable ND filter where you move around and adjust, you can set your aperture, your shutter speed, your ISO, and then use your zebras and stuff on the camera to adjust exactly what looks good. And then once you got it, you set it and you film, which is cool. So I do like the threads on here. Some say a negative for this camera would be not having the built-in ND filters, which is true, but that is an expense, right? That is a cost-cutting thing where you can remove out. I understand that. Removing RAW and memory is not something that I think is cool, but I do understand removing the ND filter. But I do also like they put the thread here, so you don't have to go out and buy an adhesive sticky to put on this, and which falls off later on anyway. All right, so I got that. It does work. I think it looks pretty good. So it adds to the cinematic look of your video. That's the pros I have listed right now. Let's talk about the cons. All right, well, this is the biggest one for me. So this is the one I don't understand at all. Sony, you have raw photos in pretty much every camera that I know of that you make. I even have raw photos in my GoPro. Doesn't mean they're that good, but I have raw in here. Why did you take raw out of this? I don't get it. It's not a expense to you. It's still the same sensor, right? It can still do a raw photo. You just need to tell it to do the raw photo. I don't know why they removed that out of this camera, just for marketing aspects. We don't want to get too close to ZV-1 or something. I don't know, but that's really disappointing that you remove RAW out of this camera. It doesn't make any sense to me. I won't go more into that. If you know RAW photos, you know what JPEG photos are, you'll understand what I'm talking about. There is a difference. I took some photos outside with this camera and then this camera into the sun, and I could get more of the highlights from the raw photos in here than I could with this one. So there is a difference between not having RAW in this camera. So that's a big negative for me, and probably the one reason I will return this camera, just for the aspect of not having RAW. All right, next up, stabilization and rolling shutter. Yeah, it's not that good. The stabe really cuts in. You buy this camera because it has a wider angle lens than the ZV-1, but when you push in that stabe, it punches in, and it doesn't offer that much of stabilization at all. It's mainly good for you hand holding, staying still, and that little wiggle you may have in your hand as you move, it'll help cut some of that out. But if you start walking with this thing, not very good. Catalyst browse. You're gonna have to use catalyst browse with this camera, unfortunately, if you wanna get good stabilization without using a gimbal. And when you come into the fact of using a gimbal, then we're getting into the Crane M3 maybe, or you can find a Crane M2. It may work with the Crane M2 if you still have those around, or other small size gimbals. It does not work with the Falcon, the inky Falcon I use for the GoPro. It does not work. It's not about the weight. It's about where this quarter mount is offset. So it makes it difficult to mount on a gimbal. The whole object of this thing is getting a small form factor. So adding a gimbal, walking around with a gimbal, I just don't think it kind of plays together too much. All right, so that's stable and rolling shutter. Rolling shutter is when you move back and forth. You can kind of see it do this. Yeah, the sensor in here can't keep up fast enough to get a decent rolling shutter out of this camera. That's one thing I expect with a price like this, that it would have like not such a good rolling shutter. But again, the raw photos is ridiculous. Cold shoe. So I recently bought, and I haven't done a review on this. I'm still kind of testing the microphone. So far, I like it a lot. This is the Sony ECM G1 microphone. The whole great thing about this microphone is I don't need this. I can put it into my A7 IV and it automatically works together seamlessly. Automatic, I don't have to adjust the volume or anything. I put it in here, it's like a regular old microphone that you can buy off anywhere. Because you have to add the cord. This is a cold shoe, so it doesn't work by itself. I did add this cord. I'll show you my setup here where it looks like, but it does work fine. It sounds good, so that's all good to go. But it would have been nice if this was a hot shoe of some sorts to add their own microphones to it, especially when they have pictures online of these two together from Sony with the freaking cord sticking out going into the camera. Dumb, dumb, dumb. All right, no memory recall. So if you know what memory recall is, it's basically a way to save settings on your camera that you like. So if you have a certain shutter speed, 4K 30, picture profile you want to use, all that kind of stuff, you want to save it so you can switch between 1 and 2. This is for this is for that. I don't have to adjust settings every time. This has been in, like, even in this camera has it in here. It's been in all their Sony cameras. They took it out. You don't need that. That costs money to put in there. Oh, it doesn't cost money to put in there. It's just basically software that we already created years ago that we could have dumped in there, but take it out. Okay, so where do we go from here? I'll tell you what I would buy this camera. And it's such a niche type of customer. In which if you're a YouTuber or you do stuff like this, review stuff, headshots and product showcase stuff are very good to have or needed for your video. I can take this outside from testing cameras or testing whatever I have, do a quick headshot showing the device, doing the blurred background, all that looks good. Take that and then add to my footage. I could then come to the studio, set this up as a product showcase device and use that as I film videos like this to show off. That's what I think is the best way to use this camera for me. Is that worth $498 plus tax? I don't know. What I do think, I like good deals. So I think as much negative push I've seen with this camera is that when it comes to Black Friday and deals like that, this camera is going to be discounted. That's when I think I'll grab it. If the price drops to around $350, $400, that area, I'd probably pick it up to have just for those purposes of getting some headshots, not moving, getting headshots and product showcased. That's it. Do I take pictures with it? If I have to, if I have it with me, do I expect them to be good? It'll be okay. Would I just use my iPhone instead? Probably so, to get those kind of quick shots. So normally after this, I would go right into the footage and everything else I'm going to cover, which was going to be the footage, some of the app you use, some of the pictures, what it looks like, different in Lightroom compared to the RX0 or even the iPhone. So I'm going to stop this video now here, and then immediately follow with footage and coverage of this camera. So it'll be 2 separate videos. And I pretty much will then put them out back to back. So this one come out, and then the next one come out right behind it. So you don't have to wait for anything. Yeah, that's the plan. All right, let me go work on that. Thanks for watching, and here comes the footage. Oh,